Hello, hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to my space. Oh boy, I've got a nice hair that's just wanting to make sure it's seen. So, welcome to my first episode of Practicality Plus Magic. I am so excited to be here. This has been a dream of mine for a really long time. I've wanted to do it, and I'm finally doing it. So, yay, and welcome in. Please comment and let me know where you are joining us from. And I welcome your comments, questions all along the way. This is a conversation. I'm not here just to talk. I want to engage with all of you. So let me talk about practicality plus magic for a moment. Practicality and magic, however you want to call it, whatever feels best. I love magic. I've always loved magic. I love being in the magic. I'm an air sign, so I tend to kind of live in the ethers, which is all about magic. But I understand the necessity of practicality and the alchemy that occurs when we engage our practicality and our magic. When we do that, we are unstoppable. We are the alchemists of our life. So I want to talk just for a moment about what practicality and magic are. So practicality, by definition, is the quality or state of being practical. Okay. The aspects of a situation that involve the actual doing or experience of something, right? So it's like the physicality of it. You're actually experiencing it. You're bringing something into practice. And then magic is the power of apparently influencing the course of events by using mysteries or supreme forces. Okay, so I love that the definition says apparently, because those of us that are connected to the magic knows there's no apparent about it. It's the absolute truth. It is fact that you are, that you are influencing experiences through magic, right? It's not apparently, you know that it's happening. And what I have found in my life is that when I am really allowing myself to be connected to the magic fully, and I'm fully grounded in the practical, physical sense, then that's when all possibility, all potential is available. And really throughout my life, especially in the last 16, 17 years, I've really understood the necessity of merging the two. Like one without the other isn't good. The magic without the practicality isn't really manifestation, right? It's just kind of living in this untethered space where we're not bringing into our physical existence what we really want. And then the practicality without magic is frankly boring. It's really not how we're meant to live. And when we merge the two, that's when we see ourselves and all of our potential. That's when we are the alchemists. That's when we are the magical co-creators of this life. And the way that this really came to be for me is by seeing, my products and what they do. That's where I really first found the practicality and the magic, because my salt products and my essential oils really help to ground me. They're that tethering that I need into my physical body, right? So that I'm not just out in the ethers floating all around wondering what to do and how to bring all these things that I want into existence. So much like this show, I need the magic part of me to dream it and to connect and to know that that's where I want to be headed. And then I need the very practical side to bring it into existence, right? To create the video that began the show and to know what I want to do and how I want to present this. That's the practical. So it's when we merge the two that we really are the alchemists. And that's what I believe at the basis of everything, that we are all alchemists. And what I mean by that is we are here to create the extraordinary out of the ordinary, right? And the practicality is the ordinary. The magic is the extraordinary. We're meant to combine those two and be the alchemists of our own life so that we can take our ordinary life and make it the extraordinary dream life that we all want, right? It's up to us. It's our responsibility. So this show is simply my insight into that, some tools, some tips to help you with that, to help you become the alchemist for you, to help you to be everything that you want and to have the life that you want. So the show is going to be, I think it's going to be the first and third Monday of each month. Obviously, that didn't happen this month because it's the second Monday. But you know what? When life brings its stuff, you got to pivot. That's part of the practicality and the magic combined. The magic says, no, we've got to do it this way. Only what I'm thinking. And then the practicality comes in and says, no, we can adjust and we can allow it to be what it needs to be. So here we are on the second Monday in July for our first show. But, you know, it's all good. It's all good. It's all purposeful and how it's meant to be. And, you know, what I want to say about practicality and magic for all of us is that we need them both equally, right? Because if we are not grounded into our physical, and I just want to talk about that for a moment, what I mean by grounded. Yes, connected to the earth, but it's about being in our body, being present in the physical. We spend the majority of our time up in our brain, thinking and, you know, logicking our way through life, right? And we're not grounded. So we need to drop down from our brain into the space of our heart, into the space of our physical body. That's when we're very grounded, right? So that way we're grounded and we're connected to our highest self or to the divine. So if we're just connected to the divine and we're not grounded, we're not firing all cylinders. We're not, effective. We're not engaged in life as a complete being. And if we're grounded without being connected, again, we're not completely engaged in life and we're not as effective. Our alchemy is not going to be as effective. And that's where we can get into some frustration. So where can you find your practicality and your magic every day? Where can you bring them together, merge them so that you are the alchemist of your own life? That's what this show is about. So each practicality and magic show will be different. It'll have a theme of its own. Today, we are talking about a lot of wonderful things that have to do with practicality and magic. And today just happens to be the launch of my Grown Up Timeout Plus. If you're not familiar with this, I just want to fill you in for a moment on what that is. This is where I bring all of the magic, all the best parts of me, the practicality and the magic to all of you. So we gather for a season. Right now, we're launching the summer season of Grown Up Timeout Plus, and we talk about the 4 pillars of my Grown Up Timeout Plus, which are ceremony, creation, connection, and community. Now, this idea of a Grown Up Timeout Plus was born many years ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago, when I was at the grocery store right before Thanksgiving, and I was behind a woman with a toddler, and the toddler was having a meltdown. And I was mesmerized by him, not from a judgment standpoint, just like connecting with him, like I was resonating with his temper tantrum and all of the emotions he was feeling. And the mom said she was trying everything to get him to quiet down, and he just wouldn't. He was having none of it. And she finally said, "Do you want a timeout when we get home?" And I heard myself inside going, yes, I do. Please put me in timeout. And I checked out and I got to my car and I thought, what in the world is all of that about? Like, I'm needing that mother that I don't even know to give me permission for a timeout. I'm feeling so frazzled and exhausted and fatigued that I don't even want to give myself permission to take a timeout. Like, this is not good. And I thought, if I'm feeling this way, I'm sure other people are. So my first grown-up timeout was born. It was in the physical. Here, I held them at various locations where I live in Salt Lake City. And then when we went into lockdown, I felt myself again needing that, like needing permission for a timeout. And I thought, If I need this, others do. So I took it virtual, and I've been virtual ever since. And I absolutely love it because it allows me to connect with people anywhere. There are no boundaries that way. And it's wonderful. We engage in sacred ceremony. We really define what we want to create for the season ahead. We get pampering kits in the mail that are custom created for each season and are always unique to the season and oftentimes unique for the individual. I have a feeling they're going to be that way this time too, and I'm so excited about it. And then the week of connection, we actually get our kits and we connect with them, and we, feel them and sense them and smell them. And then we gather as a community for a timeout where we have the very practical encounter of, being with the products, using them, and experiencing their magic. And then the last module is community. So we have what I call Mappy Hour, which is a modern version of happy hour. We gather with our beverages and our drinks, and we do a meditation, and we have a card spread, and we look to the cards to help us navigate. So it's our own personal map for moving forward. And what I love about this Grown Up Timeout is that we have a lot of live things, including one-on-one sacred serving hours with me, where we connect and you get to ask me anything and get my intuitive guidance and insight for your life. And then we, all of these things that are live, if you can't join them, there's no worries because they're recorded. So all the meditations are recorded. The timeout is recorded so that you can join it when it's convenient for you. And at the end of the season, you get a replay, a playlist of all of the replays so that it's yours to use whenever you want, because the meditations are not a one and done. So that's my Grown Up Timeout Plus, the most practical and magical offering that I have, I believe, because that's the purpose of it, is to connect us to our practicality, to ground us deeply into our physical, and to connect us to the magic so that we are the most effective human spiritual beings that we are here to be. So I just want to welcome everybody. Hi, Jeff. Hi, Forrest. Hi, Susan. Hi, Lisa. Welcome, everyone. So tell me where you find practicality and magic in your life, where you've had some trouble with it, where you've had some ease with it. Anything you want to share, I would love. If you are interested in the Grown Up Timeout Plus, this season is bigger and better than any I've done so far. It's a great price. You can lock in now and have that price moving forward for all seasons. And you can find out about that at michellesnelling.com, or if you have questions, message me, michelle@michellesnelling.com. So I would love your questions. I would love your comments. And I would love to get your insight into what is going on and what you want to know about practicality and magic. Like I said, where it shows up in your life, where you feel stuck in the practicality and not connected to the magic, or where you feel like you're just way too into the magic and not bringing it into the physical, because that's what it's all about. We want to have that magic and connect with it on a very deep level and then bring it into the physical, right? That's where we are the alchemists. So, alrighty then, let's get to something that I am so excited about. My first ever guest on Practicality and Magic. I can't wait, and I am going to bring her on now. So welcome, Sally from Activated Astrology. Thank you for being here with us, Sally.
Oh, I'm so happy for you. This is awesome that you have seen this through. You've worked so hard. You really put the magic with the practicality to make it happen. And I know this is a milestone for you. So my heart is just full today for this. And thank you so much for the honor of being your first guest.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for that, Sally. And I just want to let everybody know, Sally has She's an intuitive astrologer from Texas. She approaches astrology from an intuitive side as well as a spiritual side, which is one of the things that I really love about Sally. Lots of astrologers take out the spiritual. They want to come to it from science, which is wonderful, but we need that spiritual aspect. We're spiritual beings, right? We're spiritual beings here learning how to have a human experience, which is that practicality and magic. That's why it's so important to merge those two. And I love Sally's take on astrology because she makes it very practical. It's very easy to understand and very practical. So she has activated astrology and the Ascension School of Spirituality. So if you haven't, and most of you probably are not aware of the Ascension School of Spirituality, you want to acquaint yourself with that because it is this amazing container that Sally has created. So Sally, today, like I said, is day one, week one of my grown-up timeout summer season. And this season is all about embracing our sovereign self, which is not always an easy thing to do. And I think that that has been the purpose since March of 2020, us embracing our sovereign selves, looking at what that means to us, exploring it, finding out how we are sovereign, where we are not sovereign, how we can maybe bring some more of that into our lives. And so I really wanted Sally to come and talk to us about how we can move more into this sovereign space with the tool of astrology. So I want to say before I hand it over to Sally that to me, sovereignty is being free from outside rule. So it's really about understanding that opinions, all the shoulds, all the things really do not have to come to play in our life. They don't have to limit us. They don't have to make us feel trapped. That's a perspective that we're in because we are all free. It's our birthright. We were born this way. We were born love and sovereign beings. So with that, Sally, thank you for bringing us the tools that we need and want.
Well, thank you very much. You picked a wonderful topic, and it's so broad and so deep, but we can do like a little starter on it, right?
Yes.
So for those of you that are kind of astro curious, or you have some information about astrology, maybe maybe you've dabbled in it, and maybe some of you have not at all. You were born at a specific time, and an astrological chart is kind of the snapshot of what was going on in the sky at the exact moment you took your first breath. So this snapshot, we call it the natal chart, is specifically a kind of a roadmap of your chosen path. And maybe path is a little too definite. Your journey, your destination at the end of this lifetime, right? So it shows us our challenges, the life lessons that we have to endure in order to get to that. It shows us our gifts that will make it easier. It also shows cycles, and we all have the same cycles, really. We have our Saturn return at, between 29 and 30, our second Saturn return between, say, 57 and 60. So, this is kind of a cycle. We have our Uranus opposition, about 42 years old. These happen to everyone. But our smaller personal planets, where, the degrees we were born at, the aspects, the angles between the planets, the conversations that they're having, those dictate our personality and how we're going to approach these life lessons, like truly becoming comfortable with our sovereignty, right? So I would say we've got this roadmap, which is our chart. But then we also have a vehicle or a car, and it's going to be our personality. So how's our personality going to get us down the road to that path? how are the choices that we make, or the opportune times, or the cycles, going to tell us which way to turn? And will we choose that correct turn, or will we take a different scenic route around that choice? So, when you start looking at not only your natal chart, but also what we call a forecasting chart, or the transits and the secondary progressions and things like that, there are hundreds of different types of charts and readings. That will give us more insight as to the opportunities slash challenges, right? There's always an opportunity and a challenge, right? That will give us our timing, so that we can go, okay, I have been trapped in this limited belief that I can't, I'll just use myself. I've been trapped in this limited belief that I can't lose weight. Okay. Which makes me not sovereign, right? I'm not the authority over my weight issue.
Yes.
Right. But, oh, here's a good window where the energy is right. I'm going to get a little help here from the planets under this circumstance in, say, June of 2021 or whatever. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Can I add one thing, Sally?
Absolutely.
Just because one thing that I love about astrology for me in the last like maybe 10 years that I've been a little more open to it, because honestly, before, before when I would look at astrology, like my sun sign didn't really fit it fit some, not everything. So I didn't really feel connected, whatever. But when I had my daughter at 29, and I really feel like I went in with blinders on to motherhood. Like I had no idea what it was going to be for myself. Like I had no idea that the lessons it would bring up in me, or the opportunities, I want to say, the challenges. And so I had my daughter at 29, and she has been a tool for learning for me from the minute she was born in all of the most amazing ways. Super challenging, but miraculous and absolute magic. But I didn't understand it until I learned about the Saturn return. And then I was able to take something very practical and find the magic in the situation, right? Because I understood, like, oh, this is I was in my Saturn return when I had her. And the interesting thing was that wasn't my plan. My plan was to have her years earlier, but it took me a while to conceive, for us to have her. And so of course it was divine timing, right? God was
Absolutely.
like, no, you need to have her when you're 29. And so anyway, I just wanted to share that because, we can look at astrology as something like kind of out there, and it's fun to read our horoscopes and everything, but there is such a practical tool to it that we can implement in our lives and help us, right? And we need all the tools we can get. We need all the
yes. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole, that is really the big picture of it. I mean, would you turn down if somebody said, here's $100,000, no strings, go and put a down payment on a house or whatever it was that you needed? Would you turn that down? No, that wouldn't be very practical. So if you have this wonderful map, that was created, yours is so unique. Your natal chart is completely unique to you. It's like a thumbprint. And so why would you not at least consider that this may be an opening for you to understand yourself better, understand how you relate better to other people, know why you have these little quirks, why you have the dreams that you have, why you have gifts. It's just such a valuable tool. Really, it is. So that's a wonderful, wonderful example. That first Saturn return is the time when life just goes. When you think about if you think about what went on when you were 27, 28, 29, 30, right in there. That's about how long, you kind of feel that energy. your life was changed forever by something. Either you got your first big job, you got your first, you had your first baby, maybe you got a divorce, maybe you got married. It's going to be something like that. So our whole lives are filled with important cycles like that.
Yes.
And those are all opportunities for growth and for lessons and to become a sovereign being. And sovereign in my eyes, I always looked at or I've always thought of, like sovereign the way you hear it, as in a sovereign nation, a government, something like that, which is basically the authority,
Yes.
the 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 ruler, the power. So self or soul sovereignty, right, really kind of requires that we have a connection above, as you were saying, and below, as you were
Yes.
saying. So with all of that, we're straight on. Um, some examples would be like, maybe you feel very maybe you are the authority and have your power over your career or your relationship, but you don't feel it so much when it comes to addictions or even like some issues of abandonment. Maybe something has happened to your health. You feel more victimized almost in that case. If you're feeling victimized or like you have no power over something, then there's an issue. You're not in your sovereign self. You're not connected the way you need to be, because you were given this, as Michelle said, by birthright. It is yours. You have it. You just have to claim it,
Yes.
right?
Claim it.
Um, yeah, claim it. Even old wounds. I see a lot of it in astrology. Old wounds stemming from religious upbringings.
Mhm.
That seems to be a real sore spot with a lot of people. I was raised Methodist. And to be honest with you, I don't see too many people being too upset by the way they were raised by Methodists. But it seems to be more, like a lot of folks that just didn't, maybe they're, my it's odd because my father, I married a preacher's kid, and he was raised Church of Christ, never went to another church. And he was, even when I married him, he was like, Church of Christ, Church of Christ, Church of Christ. But as he's kind of gotten to know me and my, different type of self, he's like, that kind of pisses me off. They kind of didn't do me right on that. So people have some wounds there a lot of times with going to
Yes.
church and I guess I do, even just being raised here in the South, because I think that it's very difficult for me to use alternate words for God, or decide whether to use the word God, or Jesus, or whatever. It's just
That's the
because,
challenge.
yeah, because I feel like my woo woo world that I live in is going to, oh no, it's almost like that. And I had to really do some soul searching on that. Like, no, this is right for me. I had to step into my authority and know
And
what was right for me on that.
yes, and that's really what sovereignty is all about, is identifying those places where we feel restricted, right? Wherever it is, from maybe a religion we were raised in, just things from our family, from teachers, just living. We take on restrictions and beliefs about those restrictions. So it's just really about identifying those restrictions, which is the very practical part of it, and then connecting to our magic to help move from them, right? To help
Yeah.
to move from that restriction into the sovereignty. And, I'm here to tell you guys, and I really want your comments. I want everybody to comment and get in this conversation with us about where you feel sovereign, where you don't feel sovereign, because this is the time for us to really take an honest look at it and be honest. And sovereignty is something that I have been looking at throughout this really deeply throughout this whole pandemic from March of 2020. Well, first of all, starting in February of 2020, when I had a car accident, that I was certain it was a pretty serious accident, but I was certain I was going to be up and fine in 3 days, and it ended up being 3 weeks. And I had to really allow myself to come to peace with needing help, with not being able to do life the way that I had been able to do it prior, and not within my timeline. That was like the first time in my life that I hadn't set the timeline for healing and said, done, right? So I had to give into that. And it's just been a continual looking at the ways I feel restricted, the ways that I have allowed myself to be restricted, because it's our sovereignty, it's our birthright. If we're feeling trapped or like we should or whatever, that's a choice. So we want to be really clear about that. It's our responsibility to connect with our sovereignty and to help move what's in the way of it, right?
That's right. Yeah. So let me ask you, when you had the accident, or well, let's bring this back to January of 2020.
Okay.
When we had the grand conjunction. So what we've experienced, folks, in this past year and a half, and actually even 2 years, because this has just been actually even more than that. I could just keep going back and no, there's more. And that's the way astrology is. There's something going all the time. But we have experienced a string of historical, really big historical things, like things that haven't happened in 2,000 years, things that haven't happened in 500 years, things that haven't happened, since the Great Depression, that we're still going through. So, even right now, the U.S. is dealing with its first Pluto return.
Yes.
Pluto only returns to itself every 240 some odd years. So, Pluto is transformation and death and all that. So the nation is coming into sovereignty.
Yes. Sally, is it correct that the last time that we saw this was around when we were becoming a nation? Like,
yes, exactly. When they're using the independence, the Declaration of Independence as the birth date. Okay. So that is that's kind of where we're talking about. So, we're seeing this big grand conjunction that happened in January. You remember, just after that was when COVID was announced.
Yes.
And then everything in the entire world, like, that grand conjunction didn't just happen for us here in the US, or, that happened for the whole world, and it's global, right? But that also happened, even though that's collective, it happened to all of us. We each have had our own transformational period during this time that has hit us personally, in our homes, in our finances, in our pocketbooks. And how did we kind of remain cool with all that, right? Mm-hmm. So we had to reach deep. We've had to dig deep.
Yes.
Right.
Amen.
Yes. So, let me just give you, like, if you want to go to astro.com and pull up your own natal birth chart, there's also a legend there that you can see what Saturn is, with the glyphs and things. I'm talking about, beginners that don't even know what the glyphs mean or anything like that. If to get back to it on a personal level, sovereignty means having the supreme power or authority. Yes. Really. Okay. Yeah. So we want to look at it for ourselves. We don't want to look at it from a government standpoint. So if you feel like you have no power, then you're not connected, which we were talking about before. You want to look to see what is going on with your rising sign, where that is. Because it's probably not like you don't have any power in all areas. Maybe you have great health. Maybe you have a wonderful home life, but you don't feel, you feel a little off, or it's not working for you. You're not just really stepping into what the dream of yourself was, or what your physical prowess, or whatever the issue is. Look to that rising sign for that.
We can find that on astro.com. It'll tell us what our rising sign is.
Yes, yes, yes. And there's going to be a little bit of information a little bit later on. I've got a little workshop on Thursday just about the parts of the chart that would help people tremendously. It's really inexpensive, and that will help. But you can also Google a lot of this stuff too.
Okay.
So don't be afraid to use Google. It's your best friend. Don't believe everything you read on the internet. I urge you to find an astrologer that you were yoked with. Someone that is that really speaks to you.
Yeah.
But
which is so important.
yeah, because like, I'm not for everybody, not at all.
Yeah.
Other people, other astrologers are not for everybody, and they prefer somebody like me. But I have astrologers that I will call over something different. Like, if I have a business astrologer that I would call over someone I would call if I was having like grief issues or something like that. Who knows?
Definitely.
But yeah, but
to point out, I mean, it is all about resonating. And at the end of the day, the most practical and magical part of us is our intuition, right?
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
where that culminates. And so even when we're like sometimes reading things about our astrology, honestly, I'll be reading things and some things will really resonate. And some things I'm like, yeah, no, like that's just not landing right now. So you don't have to take it all. You can go in there and feel for yourself. You can be the sovereign soul and feel this resonates, this doesn't, right?
Yes. And having said that, keep in mind, like, even with this, you are here listening to us right now for a purpose. It's something that you need to hear, or something that you might glean, like, oh, okay, that's not true for me, but this is. Whatever the reason is, you're here for a reason and a purpose. Just like when you look at your chart, something is going to stand out to you. And this is where your intuitive part, where you can be an intuitive astrologer of your own. Something may stand out for you and you go, that's strange. I wonder what that means. And, investigate that, because that's probably the thing that you need to know the most. Whatever that thing is, like when you look at that picture, your creative brain is going to say, okay, I'm curious about that. What does that mean? So that's a really good way to start.
I love that.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
can we answer this question
Sure.
from Lily? So she said there's a fine line between resistance and standing in your power. Any tips on how to know which one you are standing in? And I would really love to address this, just because I'm actually going through this right now at this very moment. So I'm a medium. For those of you that don't know, I'm also a medium. I'm intuitive and a medium and an aromatherapist. But I have been a medium for as long as I can remember, my whole life. And in the last 4 months, about in the last 6-7 months, I've been doing mediumship, but it's been feeling like it hasn't been my favorite thing. I've been resistant to it. But I just was resistant. I wasn't soft with my resistance, saying, do I need to do this a different way? Is there a new way that I can, whatever. I was just like, just doesn't feel good. And in the last 4 months, I've been having all of these encounters, these medium encounters that have just been incredible and literally have brought me to my knees in humility and feeling so grateful. And so I realized that I have been in absolute resistance, right? Not standing in my power as a sovereign being, saying, this doesn't feel right. What do I need to do? If anything, that'll help it. I was just throwing the baby out with the bathwater, kind of. And that's resistance. So, that's where I think, Lily, it's like stubbornness versus a willingness to be teachable or to be shown how to do it differently, right? So I had forgotten my number one prayer that I always say when I'm not sure how to move forward or what something is about. I always say, I don't know how to do this. I've never done this, but I am willing to be shown. I had not spoken that prayer, which was the real definition of my resistance, right? And it's probably because I haven't been feeling sovereign in other areas of my life. And so this is one area where I could grab onto my authority and say, nope, not doing it, right? Not in my highest good, but as the human, right? Because we are human. So, Sally, what do you have to say about that question from Lily?
Okay, from an astrological, first of all, that was a beautiful, brilliant answer. And that I wish I could have said that. So can I, what she said. Um, I think, when you are in that place of resistance, you don't feel great. You don't feel, you feel something is off. You are you feel like you're missing the boat. You are feeling like a victim. You're having grudges. I think grudges and a lot of memory. Particularly if you're if you have a lot of cancer in you, or you have a strong cancer placement or a strong moon placement. This is oftentimes something that comes with that. You're blessed with this brilliant memory, but you also have a hard time forgetting things, and therefore, maybe you have some grudges or something of that nature. So, right, you have to really go within, drop into your body and go, okay, now what is this? Am I resistant because I'm in fear? And is that validated? Fear is important to have. It keeps us safe, right?
So, and it also can help us determine where we're at, right?
Yes.
Maybe that fear can help us determine if we're in resistance rather than our power, or if we're in, our sovereignty or not. So it is essential.
Right. But there is a lot of fear that we still have to march into the fear a lot of times.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So with that, you have to have a little bit of authority to do that. So in order to stand in your power, I think you have to do what Michelle was talking about earlier, is drop down into your body and reach deep within and know, okay, this is mine. Yes. I'm not projecting my power onto you, but I am keeping my power to me. Mm-hmm. I'm not powerful over you. If you're not sovereign, if you're trying to overcome or control a situation or a person, you are in your sovereignty if you are just knowing that you are enough and that you are connected. Because,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Does that make sense? I don't know if I think I answered it.
It's perfect. And so I hope that answered that, Lily. I hope that makes sense. And Lily also said, at the time our nation was founded, the world changed greatly too. So it's no surprise that it's being felt all over. Exactly. Right. That's the way it is. And so now, Sally, I would love for you to give us some tools, because we just had a new moon on Friday, which, I mean, we can still feel that a little bit. I'm still feeling that a little bit. So I would love for you to give us some tools for connecting for moving into our sovereign self and really embracing it, right?
Well, I think that number one, so the new moon was in Cancer, and new moons are times of planting seeds and doing something new. But the deal with this new moon, and we're still in this energy, is that it was square Uranus. So Uranus loves to change, and it loves to reinvent things. So think about matters of Cancer. Cancer would be the mother, the nurturing energy. It would be the home, family, memories. right? So how can you, what in that is not serving you, and how can you reinvent how you are experiencing those parts of your life so that you can really grab the gusto? There's
And
a little bit,
be the
I'm sorry,
authority, be your
be
own
the
authority
authority,
in those areas of
right?
your life, right?
Right. And we're really being called to do that right now because Uranus and Saturn are at a square. And a square, and I've used that term a couple of times, but a square is a 90-degree angle, thereabouts, give or take 5 or 10 degrees. And it's a challenge. It's not easy, and it's a challenge. And we have been in this square for a long time, and it will go exact 3 times this year. Twice has already passed, and then on Christmas Eve it'll go exact again. So this creates extreme change with authority, status, royalty. No, you are that divine being. You are a divine being. You were created in the likeness, right? So you were given this at that time. Now's the time to really, governments are going to change and break up. We see it all over the world. Saturn is government,
Mm-hmm.
and Uranus is the change. It's the one that likes to tear it up, rebel, revolutionize. Now, how can you take those old structures that are not holding up your framework? It could be your bones, your teeth, it could be your jaws, it could be your banking, it could be your, anything practical. Saturn's very practical, and it wants us to achieve. It's kind of like that principle. It's life lessons. So how can you change to get the most out of Saturn? Saturn doesn't really like change, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Could really not like, no, we're going to use the old way.
Yeah.
But Uranus will make sure that it changes, and together they're going to change in the right way. Really, Saturn just wants everything to be right and correct. That's what
And
it wants, and
and
to achieve.
Saturn doesn't like change. Is that? I mean, it. I think it understands that there needs to be change, but it doesn't necessarily embrace it.
Saturn really wants to. Saturn doesn't mind changing if you're doing something wrong,
Okay.
but it likes things to be right for a long time or forever. And nothing is forever.
Yeah. So I guess that's what I meant. Like
Yeah.
it's fine with change as long as it's only once or twice. It can get
Yeah.
comfortable, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the
Yeah,
law.
exactly. You got it. That's right. And Uranus thrives in it, you know. Saturn is the old chessboard that moves each piece very slowly and thinks. And Uranus is the one that comes in, goes, and flips up the playing board.
Okay.
I heard Deborah Silverman say that one time.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really a really good example. In fact, it doesn't even say, I'm going to flip up the playing board. It says, we're not playing that game anymore. In fact, I'm inventing a new game now. I think it's really very, very, very clear. Now, in October of 2022, we're going to have one more close call with Uranus and Saturn square. But other than that, and then right now for us this month, Venus has some interesting aspects to what to Mars and all kinds of things, Uranus and all kinds of things. So you want to kind of know that love and money and things around even maybe legal affairs, what's right, those things, there may be a little delay or some challenges or something like that, but it will pass. So don't wig out about it.
Okay. Wonderful. Awesome. And I think the the message in all of this is that these are volatile times purposefully, right? Things have to
Purposefully.
things have to be shaken up, kind of like the 52 card pickup. You have to throw it up, has to kind of come apart to settle how how it wants to be settled or how it's in the highest good to be settled. And so it's not comfortable, but it is necessary. And our job is to remember that we are sovereign beings. Back in August of 2021 or 2020, sorry, I was just clearly shown during several days of contemplation and meditation that, like, I was not being my whole complete self by being deeply embedded on either side, because there's very clearly
So
two
true.
sides in our country, and that I was doing myself a disservice by ascribing to either side, and that I needed to come to the middle. And that's when I could truly connect with my divine self, my sovereign self, and really begin to understand what that means. And what I was shown is no savior's coming. Like, we put so much hope and stock in a savior coming to save us and make it all right. It's not going to happen. And it's really about us being able to weather the storm, being flexible like the tree, and, being our own savior. So this is where we've got to look to that astrology to help us to know, like Sally was saying, with all this cancer stuff, where do we need to step into our sovereignty and all of that?
Yes. I think, when you were talking about that, we have to weather the storm. I'm sure, I don't know how old everyone is here, but I can tell you that people that are between the ages, or like right around 42 right now, are just having a hell of a time, more than most of us. If you're between 40 and say 46, because you're going through this series of things, you're going through maybe a Neptune square, you're going through a Uranus return, a Uranus opposition, you're going through your Saturn opposition, you're going through a whole bunch. And this happens to everybody at these ages. But during this time, with Saturn and Uranus for everybody being in such an odd situation, it's really recommended that if you are having, if you're severely depressed or anything like that, or you're having extreme anxiety, definitely you need to call someone to get help. But someone that might be able to help would be a holistic practitioner like Michelle, or do some self dive into astrology. You'll be surprised how much you'll enlighten you about yourself and about the opportunities that you have.
And Jeff said, he raised his hand and said, I took it down, but that's him. And Sally, I appreciate you saying that, because this is the time when we need to really, trick out our spiritual toolkits.
That's a great word.
Full, and they need to be overflowing with tools, because we need more tools now than maybe we ever have in our lifetimes. And because of just how uncertain everything is, and how volatile it all feels, and just crazy. And so, rather just find who you resonate with. It might be me, might not be me. I'm not for everybody. It might be Sally, it may not be Sally, but find the people that have the tools that'll help you. And that's what the purpose of this show is. It's just to be another tool to help, to bring information, to bring education, to help us to know how we can drop down. And so I want to share one little thing, because I love cards. I use cards for myself often, and I use them when I'm doing a session many, many times. And so I wanted to pull a card today, and I was feeling really drawn to the Crystal Spirit deck. And this is my inaugural show, right? So you can't make this stuff up. You really can't. I say that all the time, and it's true. I pulled Azurine. Whoops. Don't want to cover my face, which is number 1. Oh, my hand is, which is number 1. Okay. Wow. And I just about fell over. Of course, I cried a little bit, because I cry a lot, but and I welcome the tears. I used to resist them, but I just want to read the prosperity message for this. Okay. So now is a time to be unveiling in your adherence to your values. Know where you are willing to bend and where you are not. Be in touch with what matters most to you, knowing that abundance takes many forms and will show up in many ways. Be fully present and impeccable in your financial transactions and dealings. If you have money decisions to make, meditate on what fair looks like. You will have greater clarity about what to make a stand, where to make a stand, and where a little compromise feels right. And that goes right along with the Venus that Sally was talking about with our financial stuff. So that's a prosperity message. So I want to tell Sally, thank you so much. And Sally, please tell us where we can find you and what you've got going on.
Well, I think this Thursday night at 7 Eastern, I'm going to be doing a little workshop. It's an hour and a half. And if you can't attend, I will send you a recording of it. And we're just going to go through the parts of the chart. So it'll be kind of a little roadmap in order to help you know what to even look up if you don't want a reading. And after that, I'm going to offer my tutoring lessons at a discount. So we can take your chart and then I can say, no, this is that, this is that. And so why don't you look up this? This is for the real beginner, someone who looks at a chart and they're just baffled. Or it's just like, what language is this? Because it is a language.
Like me. Like that's how I feel when I look at it. I'm just like,
no, you're not at all. You do good now. Come on.
Well, thanks to you and your awesome classes.
Thanks. Okay. Yeah, so that'll be fun. So come and join me. It'll be a lot of fun. You'll like it. It's just $15, it'll be fun. Awesome. And so you can find me at the Ascension School of Spirituality.com. That class is only being offered through the Ascension School of Spirituality.com. And it's not, don't put a "the" in it. It's just Ascension School of Spirituality.com. And then you'll click on mentors and then you'll click on me, Sally Boyd, and go down and grab that class and we'll see you. It'll send you a Zoom link.
Awesome. Okay. I hope everybody does that. Takes advantage of the very generous offer that you are giving everybody. So Lily said, wow, that card is perfect for you. And I want to say, Lily, thank you. And that card is perfect for all of us because it's really about connecting to our sovereignty, embracing our sovereignty by knowing what's important, because once we know what's important, then all the BS can just fade away, right?
Yes, that was spot on, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
I was listening to the financial stuff, but when it said no, set your standards.
Yes.
That was cherry. You're awesome, Michelle.
Oh, well, thank you. And thank you, Jeff. Great for show. I appreciate that. And I just want to let everybody know a couple of things that I've got going on. You can find me at michellesnelling.com. That's Michelle with one L, Snelling with two. I keep going over there, so I'm sorry about that. You can also find me on the Ajata Casa app. If you are not there, please find your way there. I cannot tell you enough. I cannot recommend it highly enough. This is a space that was created by the Buddhist biohacker, Lisa Gunshore, and it is a space for magic and practicality and all the wonderful parts about being human and the challenging parts, but it's a space of nonviolence. So you're not going to go there and find all the garbage that you do on some of the other social channels, and there's no algorithms. So if you post something, everybody's going to see it. And it's the most beautiful community that Lisa has created, and I'm honored to be a part of it. And I have a group there called Practicality and Magic. So come find me. We do a lot of fun things. And again, I've got my Grown Up Timeout Plus summer season that's just starting today. I really welcome you and urge you to join, because this will help you to have the best summer. And it's tools to help you manage everything that's coming astrologically and just every other way in life, right? It's $75. You get the kit, you get live meditations with recordings of meditations, gatherings, all sorts of wonderful things, and the replay links for everything. Tomorrow, 7/13, which is some special astrological event with Venus and Mars. I'm very honored to be a part of a very special activation that's going on with that. It's this time when Venus and Mars are together, we're bringing, or it's the time for us to bring together the divine masculine and the divine feminine, which, let's be honest, is not always easy. We tend to be deeply entrenched in one or the other and not find the balance and not go back and forth easily between the two. So we are doing an activation. Lisa Gunshore, oh my gosh, so many women that I can't. Why am I Mary Lydia, the spa opera lady, Claire Caswell, the artist, April Megginson, and Carolina, the amazing light code worker. So we will be doing an activation, and it's $44. But if you are a member of my Grown Up Timeout Plus, you get it for free. So it is the biggest bonus. And if you can't make it live, you get the replay to use. And let me tell you, the activation that we did on the summer solstice was absolute magic and practicality. And I have watched that replay myself, I don't know how many times in the last several weeks, just because there was so much in it, and it just helps me to shed more layers. So the activation is included in the Grown Up Timeout. So if you want any of that, reach out to me, Michelle@michellesnelling.com. You can reach me through michellesnelling.com on my contact me page or in the Ajata Casa app. So thank you so much for being here for my inaugural Practicality and Magic show. I appreciate it. I love you all. And I just want to say that I said, welcome to Forrest. And that was such a silly thing because I know exactly who that is. I wasn't reading it right. It's four is plenty, and that's Anne. So welcome, Anne. Thank you for being here. Just wanted to say that. Thank you, everybody that was here today. I appreciate it. I love you all. And let us know how Sally and I can help if we resonate with you. Let us know how we can help. We're here. So thank you. Thank you, Sally.
Thank you. Blessings and stars.
Bye, everybody.